Well, hey, welcome back to the channel. This is a third video, I think, in a series that I've been doing on Ionic Vite, or I think it's called Vue and Ionic Capacitor, to show how to build mobile applications using Vue.js. This video, I am going to integrate Firebase. I haven't done a Firebase video in a minute, but I'm going to integrate Firebase into this application, and I'm going to do it using the Firebase Emulator because I think it's kind of cool. I know a lot of people don't really play with it, but it's going to be pretty easy and pretty quick to set up. And so I will just cover that in this video, and then I'll create another video where I'll integrate Vue.Fire, and then we'll put a nice UI on top of all of it. So please make sure you like and subscribe. As usual, please share with your friends, and let's get to it. So this is where we left it in the last video. And if you did not watch that video, there should be a link below that you can go check it out before you hop into this. All right, so I have some notes on the side, so every now and then I'm going to kind of turn my head and we'll see what we'll do. So the first thing we want to do is make sure we install everything that we need to install. So we're going to do npm install -g Firebase, I think it's Firebase tools. I've installed this stuff to test, so it should fly along pretty quickly. All right. So now we have the tools installed, and then npm install Firebase. All right, so now we got Firebase installed. And since a lot of stuff's going to be done from the command line, we need to make sure that we definitely log in to Firebase. So I'm going to Firebase login. I'm already logged in. And then now to set up the emulator to run locally, the first thing we need to do is init the project for Firebase. So let's do Firebase init. So first I want to set up my emulators. So I'm going to create a new project, test M2. And yes. And now it'll create the project and everything for me. And so, as I said, although I'm not covering authentication, this one, I will select authentication, and I'll also select Firestore. So authentication and Firestore. I'm using Firestore, not the real-time database. And enter, and then I just accept the defaults. So this is basically which port the emulator is going to run on, and which port the Firestore database emulator is going to run on. And yes, I would enable a UI, and I'll just take a random port for that, and then download any emulators that I need. They've already been downloaded. So now basically what it's done is it has added some new Firebase files to your project. This is default project. This is my Firebase JSON letting me know where everything's running. And then obviously package JSON was changed as everything was added. So now what can you do with this? Now that you've done all that, now let's start my emulator. So Firebase emulators start. We'll start everything up. And so all it's basically saying is I did not create a rules file, so it's just going to make everything accessible, which is fine for where we are right now in the application. And then it's basically saying I can view everything that's happening by going to this URL, this 127.0.0.1.4000. And what this is basically going to allow me to do is see the same information I would see if I had opened up my project on Firebase. And so here's the authentication emulator, which we're not using this one, but here's the Firestore emulator. And you can see, you can open it up and it basically just looks like Firebase, but this is all running locally. All right, so now I have my emulator set up. And so how do I actually connect this thing? So what I'm going to do to keep this really simple for this video is I'm just going to do everything. I'll initialize the project here, but I'm going to just add data and retrieve data and just dump it to the console log. I'm not going to focus on the UI. The purpose here is just to show how to get the project up and running. So clearly the first thing we need to do here is we need to initialize Firebase. And since I've typed a bunch of this code, I'm just going to drop it in and explain it. So first, let's import the stuff that we need, and let's kind of put it down here. Let's put this in quotes like it should be. What's it complaining about? Oh, sorry, from. And then we'll just go down here and we will do. And then in here, we need some configuration. And all we need to get this basically running right now is the project ID. And we can take the project ID, which was provided to us down here, test M2. What is complaining about? Oh, it said auto imported it at the top there. That's what's going on. Okay, so now we have our app initialized, and let's go over here. We have some annoying view warnings, so let's fix that view warning. So let's go to my views, my tabs, the home page. It's complaining because ion button isn't defined. So let's clear. All right, these are just other bizarre errors that are coming from some plugins. All right, so now let's go back to our main TS. We have Firebase console initialized. This should be enough to get our app set up and running. So the next thing that we want to do is, actually, we're just going to do everything right here in main just to keep it simple. So let's create this anonymous block here because we're going to run some asynchronous code and I need it to be wrapped. Like I said, here in this video, we're just trying to get everything going. And then what we'll do is in the next video, we'll set it up as a proper project and move everything where it needs to be. Obviously, we need a database. So let's say const db equals, oh, and then now we need the Firestore. So let's go import get Firestore. Actually, we'll let the auto import do it. So we just auto imported get Firestore. So let's take this because we're trying to keep all of our Firebase stuff close to each other. So let's put this underneath here and get Firestore. So now we have our database, and let's just, so we can just do this. We can say console log db, and you can see here that we are getting our Firestore database back. But what we really want to do is see, can we get some data inside of here pretty easily? So let's come back here and let's start to do that inside of this asynchronous block here. The first thing to do is let's add some data. So const response 1, and we want to add doc. So we're going to auto import that. And unfortunately, it's going to keep adding these up here at the top. And so I'm going to, since I have a pretty good idea of what all the imports are that I need, I'm just going to put them all in at once here. So we get the Firestore, I need addDoc, I need collection, I need query, and I need getDocs. Okay, so this way we don't need to go back and forth. All right, so to add a doc, you need a collection, and we're going to call our collection some docs, and then first of all, let's be collection, So it's collection, and then you can kind of hover over it so it gives you the information that you need. And then, I need my DB, and then I need my collection name, and then to add doc, I need the information that needs to go in the doc. And so the information that needs to go in the doc will be name, a doc name, and then I'm going to store the created at, and then we'll use the server timestamp, which I believe is, I can get from my Firebase app also. Oh, sorry, not my Firebase app here. I get it from my Firestore, I think. So server timestamp. And so I can just go down here and set my created app to be server timestamp. And then this should be my response that I get back. And from addDoc, it says my response should be a promise that's resolved with the reference to the newly created doc. And so let's change this to await. And then also let's just wrap this whole thing in a try catch. So if we get any errors, we can console log them out too. Okay, so what have we done so far? We initialized our project. We are getting our Firestore database. We're console logging the database so we can see it. We've created a document here. And let's just console log doc. This will be our addDoc response. And let's just write it out, RESP1. Okay. So the next thing is, how do we tell Firestore to connect to our emulator? And the way we tell Firestore to connect to our emulator is that there is a function that we can call, and let's just add it here, connectToFirestoreEmulator. And this basically, this must be called before I do any operators. So as soon as we create our database, we're going to add the code right here. And so basically what this says is if the location is currently localhost, then we want to connect the Firestore emulator to localhost. And this port comes from down here. So if you look at the output, it says my Firestore is running on port 8080. So that's what we've done here. All right. So hopefully what should happen now is I initialize my project, I get my database, I tell it to connect to the local host instance that's running, and then I run my code and I add a document. And as you can see here already, since this is kind of updating on every refresh, it's already started to add some documents. So let's go over to our Firebase emulator, and you can see here some documents that it added already. So my documents are getting added to my database. And let's just so that we know it's working correctly, see we add a doc name. This is a so I just added it, it refreshed it, it ran, and then it added a new one. This is a new document. So you can see it's adding the documents. We're running in the emulator. We have all the power of Firebase and a database running locally. If I want to just start all over again, I just click clear all data, clears all data from the database. This is a new document, and change the name. This is a new document and cleared. And we come over here and we see that my documents have been added. Okay, so that's adding documents. So let's get the documents back that we have added. And so let's just put some comments here. Want to get docs, and get docs requires a collection, and so we'll just use the same collection here. And so this should give us all documents. So let's first do console log. We get docs, it returns a query snapshot. And so it will get all, it will basically get me, and let's see, I think I can do this. Docs. So that's the array of, sorry, the docs is a property, it's not a function. So this should give me the array of all the documents that got retrieved. So let's just, and since this has been running on refresh, I can just dump here. And you can see, like, it's giving me back the 17 documents that have already been added. If I go to Firebase, you can see all the documents. Let's clear all this data out so we can start with a fresh bit of data. And let's just refresh the page, get some data in here. Let's clear this error. All right, and you can see we have the one document that has been created in the database. And we're getting the array of them dumped out here. And so the last thing is, let's kind of add a little bit more of a query on here. So you can do query, give it a collection, and then you give it something. So let's do orderBy, and we'll say created at descending. And I think it's upset because I need to import orderBy. So we've just imported orderBy there on the end, and then now this should, so this could be orderBy, this could be a where query. So to make a more complex query, you basically just take your collection, you wrap it in a query, and you start adding the additional query constraints that you want to add to it. Now you can see we have a bunch more documents, but it's kind of hard to see what these are. So let's kind of clean up this array just as our last little bit. So what we can do here is clean array, and we can just take our response. Actually, let's just, we can take our RSP2 dot docs dot map, and then we'll say our document, and then we will return, and then we'll say name, and then we need to clean up our created at is equal to d dot data dot created at, I think I can do a toDate on that, and it should give me back that. All right, and return. Oh. And then now we'll dump out the array, and we should see our dates kind of cleaned up a little bit. And I apologize, I just realized this is small font, so let me blow this up a bit. So now you can see we're getting our objects back. Actually, let's clear our data out again. And if we just save, refresh our page, all right, you can see we're getting our data. And we're getting our formatted timestamps so we can see the time. And they're being sorted by the time they were being created, with the most recent one on top. So, like I said, the purpose of this video was just to show you how to quickly get Firebase Emulator integrated in your project, show how to add some documents, show how to retrieve some documents, do a little bit of data manipulation on the document. And that's pretty much it. So the next video, I'm going to kind of clean this all up, break it out separately, and we'll probably build an app using the Firebase APIs initially, and then we'll integrate Vue Fire. So I hope you found this helpful. I think the interesting part really is I encourage people to check out using the Firebase Emulator. It's a very cool tool. In the next one, we will integrate the authentication also, and we'll do that in the emulator. What else is here to show? Another thing that's cool here is on the Firestore emulator, you can actually see the information on the requests that were being made, which I think is pretty awesome. I mean, I can't say enough about how cool I think using emulator is. And so I'll just leave it at that. So hopefully you found this video enjoyable. Please make sure you like, subscribe, share with your friends, and I will chat with you later. Thanks. Bye.